Today's Captain's Blog is made possible by a grant from the Captain's Blog's Parent of the Year, Paul Plusa. Thank you, sir. Hello guys, welcome to today's Captain's Blog. It's 12:30 on Tuesday, September 12th, 2017. And we're preparing to line the first of the epoxy towers. Fuck, I'm good. Alright, roll that. Okay. No, this is good. All I need is one full turn. I'm set. So we're trying this with Batman's Milwaukee days. We're going to see how well this works. No, yeah, perfect. Okay. The blade is white and the tube is white, and that kind of sucks. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna need the air tube. You don't have to wait for me to stop to do that.
Well, I'm...
There's a reason I wear safety glasses for this. Okay, now we have our line marked out. Definitely like my Sawzall better than this. hold still. It's the chunks up my nose.
You told me that's where you're itching. I'm gonna just put it up your nose.
I have dreams of building a machine big enough to just lathe pieces off. That'd be cool. Now,
Sweet.
a lot of you watching this who build your own coils and that, it's very easy as your first impulse when wanting to cut a piece of pipe to just want to go straight through, because once you get through it goes way faster, and just go, Rah! Don't do that, because you're gonna fuck it up. You're gonna end up all over the place. Go around with several light passes, and for having to cut a pipe with a handheld saw like this, what you just saw me do is absolutely the best way. The difference is, if I stand that up, it's square. Locks right down, there's no wiggle to it. If you look at this end, which some guy cut, just, that's what you end up with if you try to go all the way around. You're gonna miss it every time. And if you stand on that end, it's got a big soft spot off to the side. And when you look down, you can see light through it. That's how you know it's not, see all the light? Like a lot of light? Okay, you're always gonna get a little bit of light because the floor isn't perfectly flat, but if you got a 1/4 inch gap on the bottom, it ain't gonna work. So this pipe will get trimmed again on this end, but I can do that on the lathe, which would be nice because this, at 79 inches, is the absolute longest tube we can fit in the machine, which is why I'm cutting these to 79, because these will get made into something else. I don't know, I'll probably wind up with like 22 gauge. It would be badass. I like fat coils, which is funny because these are as candlestick as you can get. So, all right, now we clean this one off and get it on the shaft. Cleaning the shit out of this. Tell me clean the shit out. Alright, you want to put that on the thing? Hold on. Okay. Alright, so that'll be our long end, and we'll go on here.
Got that?
I got it. It's a lot easier once you get in. Hold those cart. You ready?
Yeah.
Clear end? We're loaded. worry about getting it super clean. It's got to go on and get sanded anyway, so we're okay. Okay, no nut on that end. Because that's going to be the dry end.
You got one up?
Not yet. Huh?
Metal.
There were some things we wanted to change. Not gonna worry about it right now. Alright. Here, you take this end. I'll see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a load it off the cart. We're going to muscle this. Want me to get you some guys? Want some friends? You want to do this? Huh?
I'm fine. You should be really bad.
Sure. Alright, well, stop. You're gonna pick it up and I'm gonna shoot the cart out. Okay, let's go. Up. Got it? It's heavier now.
Yeah, push on.
You gotta hold that. Just hold, no, come back here. Hold the two together. Hold right there. Just hold that with pretty. You feel pretty? Feeling it? Doing it? You got it?
It's going.
Yep, you're clear. You want to have this up and that way a little bit right about there. Hold that there. Okay, you good?
Uh-oh.
What'd you do?
Popped the cap.
Yeah. You want me to go get you an adult?
I was fine. I seemed to fuck around with it.
Captain to Batman and Joey. Please report to high voltage immediately, please.
This is the way easier way to do this. Just pull this off, pound this shit all the way in, and then
I had, you can't have it stick out that far in the center. It won't work.
you have to. Otherwise you can't put it anyway.
Come on, line it up.
Let me pull it up.
Huh?
Let me pull it up.
You don't
pull
hold
this
that.
up.
No. Here, hold that. I'll line this up. Come to me. Hold that. There you go.
Okay.
You're right at the time. Okay, the adults are coming to hold the thing.
Oh, Jesus. This would be much easier if you pull this off here and pound that shit in the end.
Yes, sir. You can't. He tried to do it without you here. He made me do
It
it,
fell again.
and he fell the thing. Come on, quick! He's kind of a pussy. Get on that end. Batman, get in the middle.
You done fucking hack this thing up.
I'm smart enough to not do it. See, you're all balls, no brains. Okay, you lined up? Okay, everybody support it. Okay, everybody support it, because I gotta put this down, and I gotta put this through. We didn't make the cradle for the loading. Get that roughly in position, I'll get a wrench on it.
Are you going to need me to push it back toward you?
Yeah, maybe. I got enough room in there that you can't, but I gotta spin the thing. Hang on, don't move it. Push an inch. Okay. Now, we are just barely in there, so
You go to the opposite.
roll it away. Yeah, we're loading. Alright, let's make it a little safer. Joey, give us a shove this way. Oh, I feel way more better now. Alright, hang on. Give me another nut. Keep spinning that. Probably.
Oh, okay, here. Oh, that's you got this thing like a fine garage.
Okay, Batman. Come here and hold this. Hold that with one hand. Hold that with one thumb. Stop! Keep your thumb down, move your hand. Put your thumb like that, because if that catches, you don't want your thumb between that. If this blocks, you want to be able to just fall off it. Because if your thumb goes in there, you're going to lose the thumb. I need my nuts. Three things.
He got jokes.
Okay. I would say we'll
Well, let's find the nuts. I don't know.
Where did you put your nuts?
That one here. Only one's on. Yeah, I just loaded it with the washers. Big wrench.
You both actually.
Yep, I'll need both. I'll let that turn. You're letting it turn. Why are you letting it turn?
I'm letting it turn.
No, it's one job.
Well, whole fixture turn.
One job. We counted on you.
Get your weak ass hands in there and hold the bar down.
Hey, I did my protein this morning. I got swole. I'm getting those hands. You had to go and flirt with college girls.
It's not just bad luck.
That's
Yeah, you're not gonna.
that ain't where it's supposed to be.
How are you tensioning it? We're just sliding it up and down?
Yeah, let's see if this would be here.
You want for a second?
So you get fingers sucked into a pulp.
It's way loose.
Well, we usually ride this way the hell over there.
Still gotta be lined up.
Alright, we gotta go that way. Do your thing. I'll let you know when you're in line. Pretty close.
Well, we usually run it a little bit over where it is. That's why it's usually so tight.
Okay, stop. Yeah, you're. What do you mean we usually run it a little over from where?
I mean, if you
Usually
did
not.
crank this over more, it would tighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, but I'd have to edit. I'm in alignment there, not.
Yeah. Your belt doesn't have to be perfect.
What I'm saying is you're used to the tightness of running that off center.
If you crank this further over, you're gonna.
I know what you're saying. This can't go further over because we'll put this out of alignment. This is where it has to be. This is where we run. What are you saying?
I said we haven't always run it exactly parallel. We've been running it a little bit to the left, which is why it felt like there was more tension before.
Okay.
Is that just the height of your,
Yeah, that's our height to the lining line. Alright, I'm calling this good. I'm gonna write it down.
We'll just see how if it stops if you put a tiny bit of pressure on it.
Pipe on this to redo this up.
I totally support that if you want to do that. Absolutely. But you're gonna have to find a piece of pipe that just slides over it.
Well, I got it over here.
You're gonna go get a second one, we'll see. I don't think you're gonna be able to slide a pipe over it and gain any. According to Sam, who's an engineer, says. If you get it, exactly right. Yeah, but you have to like clamp to the bearing and like wedge it between the.
Essentially, if you snug it up,
What you can do is go up to a 1-inch threaded rod.
I had a whole bunch of inch threaded rod, but I cut it into like 4-foot pieces.
And you
lift it in hand,
an 8-foot piece.
long and quarter diameter.
Yeah, that's gonna be tricky. You have to like deal on too.
Thank you, John.
Or you could just put like a little support here. That was actually one of the other ideas.
Jesus, that's heavy. That would have fucking killed me to try to lift that. I'm not going to tell him that, but Jesus, that's heavy. That thing weighs like easily 250 pounds. Got a wagon. I'm cool. Doesn't really count as a wagon. You gotta have sides on it to be a wagon. That's a cart. Jesus. This is surprisingly heavy.
You think?
Yeah, I just hauled it here, and it's everything that little cart wants to have. That's impressively heavy.
Take that off there.
I would poop down my leg.
That. You can take off.
Yeah? All right, I can do it.
Do it. This is gonna be your workout for the day.
I bet you $100 I can get that off there and on.
I'm sure you can, but you got to do it by hand, and I'm not betting you $100.
By hand, because I gotta lift.
Oh no, you got it. So you grab one end there, grab the other end right here. Pick that fucker
I can
up.
do it, but if I do it, something's getting fucked up, and it's probably me. Like, I can grab this end. I can do that. This end only weighs like 30 pounds.
Yeah.
That end weighs like another order of magnitude. Which is just a 0, which is practically nothing. So, I mean, that shouldn't be too hard to lift. It's just a 0 off the end there. Here, you pick it up, I'll pull the cart out from under it, and you can just set it right down. You good? That's not the spot. All right, so do you know what this is and why it's so important that we move such heavy things?
A transformer of some kind that I don't want to fucking lift.
Inductor.
Okay.
Watch, come here. These are variable auto transformers, variacs, okay? Made by Staco. And what we do with this is these work like a giant light dimmer. This lets us take 0 to 600 volts out from only having a consistent 480 volts in. So this lets us throttle back voltage, okay? Now that's easy to do. Current is really, really hard. What we're doing right now is using a second variac down here. This is for the 6-inch coil. This is a small power supply. It's only 10,000 watts. This lets us change the voltage. this lets us change the current, but it's not very good at it. This is a really shitty way to do it. The best way to control current, to vary it, is there's 3 things you can use to limit current. You can use inductance, resistance, or capacitance. And
Inductance would be the best option.
inductance is the best. Resistance works really well, and it's nice and smooth, but it's a lot harder to change, and it generates a lot of heat. You waste a huge amount of energy.
Yeah.
So that's there. Each one of those is 1 ohm of resistance, and when we fire this up, and we use this all the time, it limits the current really, really well. It works great, and it's a nice smooth load, so circuit breakers love it, but you can heat the room with that. Like, those will glow cherry red in 30 seconds. So this, well, we'll start with this one, because that and that are the exact same thing, okay? This one just doesn't have the switching matrix on it. What this is a core and coil, like a regular transformer. So we have our EI core, and we have a big coil of wire on it. And that's one continuous coil of wire, and there's taps that come off. You can see these, the wire comes out, forms a little loop, and then goes back in.
Yeah.
Well, this, the AC waveform going through it, kind of, well, you have the AC waveform going through it, and that creates an electromagnetic field. Here, you hold this, I'll explain. That creates an electromagnetic field, right?
Okay.
So that makes this core want to be an electromagnet. But instead of the it's the same electromagnetic field as if we just had this wire all laid out, but by winding it around the core, that concentrates the lines of flux. And by winding it into a coil, that concentrates the lines of flux. By putting a core in there, that creates magnetoreluctance. This doesn't want to change its magnetic field easily. There's a little tiny bit of reluctance to that. And that, it's like pushing the electromagnetic field through the mud. There's a little drag on it, and that drag limits our current. And there's things that you can do. You can add more or less coils, and if you have more coils, you have more drag, you have more inductance. Or you could cut a gap in this, because there's a core that goes down the middle, and this is made of all these little laminations. So there's pieces that go down here, pieces that go down the middle, pieces that go down here, and you can cut this and then put a thin shim of something that doesn't conduct, like plastic or even wood, and then bolt it back together, and that's called a gapped core and coil. And that changes the magnetoreluctance in the reactors. But what they did here is they put one fucking huge coil on here. It's all one coil, and they have all these taps. Because if you have your wire go in at the end, and then you go down 10 turns and you come out here, and then you go down another 10 turns and come out here, let's say this limits you to 10 amps, or like this limits you to 90 amps, but by adding more turns, now you're down to 80 amps.
Right.
And then you go down to 70. So each one of these...
So they add taps in to vary how much. Okay.
Now here's where it gets really cool. You take all these taps, and you feed them all to here. So all these big wires come off of here, and they feed up to these relays. Now these are just switches. Okay, the switch is closed, the switch is open.
Okay.
Okay, so on, off. So these all naturally want to be on in this position. You can change it, and it changes state. So this contact right here, this wire, is at this moment connected through here, through the armature, because it's up, to this wire. So these two are closed, and these two are open. These aren't connected, these two are. When it goes like that, now these two are connected, and this one isn't.
So by having this,
having
the taps, we're able to dictate the current just based off of the switching.
Just by these. And these can be hooked together in a switching matrix. And now you can use little tiny wires like these, a whole lot of them, that go up to a switch to control how many of these taps are engaged.
Okay.
Which means we can put an Arduino here, because Arduinos are really good at things like, hey, we have 16 things that all need to be either on or off. And the Arduino can control the relay. That's easy, probably with an even smaller relay. But the Arduino can control this, so we can get this to where by adding an Arduino and a simple circuit, we can control this from the internet, from Bluetooth, from not up here.
Right.
And if we can control it...
Well, because we don't want to be
We don't want to be... This is directly in line with the main power system. So we can put the big dangerous part up here, and have a little tiny control panel up here, and it just tick, 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 and it changes state. And that's exactly what this is designed to do, is these control, you know, like 80 amps, 72 and a half, 60.
Right.
You know, it'll be weird numbers, but by controlling the matrix of switches, the binary combinations, you can do that. Now here, we have 4 times 4, so we have 16. Each one of these is 1 bit, so we have 16 bits. So, if we go over here, this is where things get really good. Because this is how we go from old school 50-year-old technology with relays to state-of-the-art welcome to the future. Okay. Watch this. If we take, find out where the hell we put our damn Sharpie. I had a Sharpie. I used a Sharpie. I will have to use a pencil. All right. Oh, there's my Sharpie right in front of me. All right. So we come over here. Now watch this. Each 0 or 1 is 1 bit of information. So we have 1 bit. We can have 0 or 1. That's as high as we can count. We can count from 0 to 1.
On or off.
So now we had 2 bits, and now we have 0, 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense? Because we can have
Yeah, because you have
0,
0, 0, 0,
1,
0.
2, 3. That's all the combinations you can get out of that. So you can get 4 different combinations out of 2 things. Right? You add 1 more, 3 bits, and now we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so now we're up to 8. And you'll notice every time we go up, it doubles. So we have 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256. So with 8 bits of information, we can have 256 different combinations of those relays. So that gives us 256 steps. So if we now, so we're at 8. So we have 2, 4, 6, or 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2056, 4800, something like that. I'd have to start working out how to do. But it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So now we have 16 bits of information. With 16 bits of information, we're now in the millions.
Right.
And 16 bits of information gives you so much information, like in a 16-bit number, that a 16-bit number is all we use for CD quality sound. That's how many different combinations you get. So, and CD quality sound is 2 16-bit numbers, 44,100 times a second. And you can get full, complete CD quality sound. Easy. So with 16 bits of information there, depending, now we're limited by our taps, because we can have millions of different combinations, but it depends on what those taps are set at. Now the person who made the transformer has a huge amount of power to determine exactly how many amps, and there's a lot of really heavy math that you'd have to go through to figure out, okay, I want my 16 steps from A to B working out, knowing that I'll be able to do these through a switching matrix. What is the best possible combination of 16 steps in this inductor to limit me from whatever my maximum current is, which I don't know, to my minimum? So there's a lot to figure out here. Something we should do is share this number right here. Maybe somebody on the internet can find it. It's schematic number E0143-01-002 space S. And this is for a AMRAD something or other power supply. We would dearly love to have the schematic for this, because what I need to know is the details of this inductor, what its current rating is, like its maximum current rating, and these. Now, one clue we get, and the big clue we get, is when we look at the inductor, we look at the wire, and this wire looks like 10 gauge. Style 1015. So we got to find a piece of it that says AWG something or other. Indiana Insulated Wire Company.
By knowing the output on the tap, then we would know.
Well, they're gonna size the wire to the transformer.
Right.
And that wire is 10 gauge wire, so it's pretty beefy. Now I know that this 10 gauge wire, if it's just standard THHN 10 gauge wire in a conduit, is rated for 30 amps continuous all day long forever. So I know that I can pull at least 30 amps through this. I suspect I can do a lot more than 30 amps through this, because that's really beefy wire on there. It's connected with 10 gauge. It looks to be wound with about 12 gauge, maybe a bit bigger. That looks like it might actually, I think that's 10. So this is probably rated at least for 30 amps, and I would be completely willing to put 50 through it and see what it does. And an easy way to figure out what the absolute max current we can put through this is you run through the whole length, start at the front, go all the way down, so you have the longest possible inductor, and you start ramping it up and ramping it up, and there's going to be a point when it just saturates. It won't do anymore. That's going to be your maximum amperage. So we just drive it to saturation and figure it out. You can do a similar thing with voltage transformers, and you just pump more and more volts into it, and you'll hit a point when you can't fit any more lines of flux in here. So the current in a voltage transformer will just skyrocket, and that you find out when it goes nuts, and then you come back to safe and you'll be happy. So that's what this is for. But these will let us do current limiting for the big stuff. And these are all for 240 volts, so these will do like current limiting for that, which would be really, really awesome. And then there's one down there that's just bloody huge, a big giant box with a huge transformer.
Yeah.
That transformer has 3 cores in it. So that transformer, I know the power supply that it comes out, because it's labeled on the side, is for 135 amps. Which means that transformer can tie directly in with that big power supply there, and we are awesome. We are way awesome. And that's what we want to do. Whereas these are probably like 30 amps here. But this is all single phase 240.
These would make good dumbbells.
No.
Just about the right.
These are going to work with stuff like this. Because all these X-ray transformers, all these little boxes, are not current limited. And that is way more current limiting than that needs. So we can do some really cool stuff with it. Somebody find me that schematic if you can. Oh God, that'd be cool. Today's Captain's Blog is made possible by a grant from the Captain's Blog's Parent of the Year, Paul Plusa. Thank you, sir. It's an ultra micro, so it's really twitchy with the weather. So we just come out here, fly pattern. Just practice. Get good at landing approaches.
I think after this next engine rebuild, I might buy my controller. I want to get a tiny loop.
Oh, we done fucked it.